Welcome to brand new edition of your favorite show, the Huddle House. Um, we got a probably a much happier Ty this week. He's coming off the taste of victory. The Jimmies are in the right direction,
Back-to-back weeks,
and
two in a row.
yeah, yeah, and we've had a pretty good amount of trades, not just tonight, but Ty, we even have one for you that we need to get into that happened earlier in the week that I
Yeah,
don't think we've ever really addressed. So, definitely a few trades to kind of to bring up in the on the show tonight, and then we'll also kind of go over, just briefly the past week, and if we have time, preview the next week briefly as well. So, but it's just me and Ty tonight. Ty, how you doing, man?
doing well, man. Yeah, nice week. Got another win. Um, Back and just looking for the future, man. Excited about that. A lot of interesting moves this week. A lot of trades shaking things up. It's always funny to see. It's you spend all week, and I know in some cases, like you talk trades with some people, and like no trades happen, and then like something else happens, and then before you know it, like everything's changed. Like last week, Chris and I were talking about a trade for DJ Moore and Justin Fields, and then it ended up falling through. Nothing happened, but then like Thursday night happened, and he was texting me. He was like, he was like, I regret my decisions and stuff like that because he didn't take it. So like he saw those two guys go nuts, and it's funny the butterfly effect of that. I probably would have felt really rough if I had traded him watching that. Like it's
Yeah, yeah. I mean, fantasy, man, it's just a freaking pendulum like the whole time because, I mean, DJ obviously looked like, Justin Jefferson this past week. And obviously, it was the Commanders. Obviously, it was a good game script, stuff like that. But, going into that game, I feel like the perception of DJ Moore was probably a little lower than it is after that game. I think some people are probably hitting you up right now, I'd assume, and be like, let me get a little bit of that DJ Moore action. And, I would guess. So it's just, that's always how it goes. If he puts up three next week, then you might be trying to shop him, and people be like, oh, that guy sucks. So it's
week
just,
to week league, man. It really is. It's a week to week league.
yeah, it's just catching people at the right time. And so, yeah, let's get into this. So, obviously, I think we got to start with the most important deal that went down. There were three trades tonight, two of them including one that I'm in, is not overly important. We will mention them just because, but they're not the biggest deals. But the big one is Jeremy and Lucas, roommates, have
Do you think
conspired together to get a deal going.
one of them walked down the hall to the other one's bedroom to discuss the trade, or you think they did this in the living room while they were like watching
I
TV?
think it was like legit in the living room. They're getting ready for the Magic game because I think Jeremy went to the store or something. Because after the trade went down, I called Lucas to talk to him about it, and I kind of think I mentioned something in the likes of like I'd love to hear Jeremy's comments on kind of like his thought process. Not that it was a bad value, but just like I'm just curious, where his headspace was at. And then like literally the funny thing is like I guess I was on speaker because a few seconds later Jeremy's like, "Do you want to know why I did it, Matt?" I didn't even know he was in the room, and I'm just like. I'm like, oh, hey, Jeremy, I didn't know you were hearing all this. And I mean, he wasn't mad or anything. He just wanted to explain it and stuff. So he kind of broke it down. And so I literally think that they were just like hanging out in the living room, getting ready to watch some Magic preseason.
Since you talked to him, tell us what his thought process was. I'll put out the trade. He has essentially moved Tyreek Hill and Jameson Williams for Drake London, Roshan Johnson, and two 2025 picks, Brandon second and Mitrice first. So a nice
Yeah.
package, but obviously giving up one of the top three players in fantasy football, if not top player in all fantasy football, and Tyreek Hill.
Yeah. Well, what Jeremy told me is that well, obviously he's 1-4, and he's looked at his team and he doesn't really see a clear path to really like climbing out of that, ruin this year. Um, And so I think he kind of wanted to just make a commitment to picking a direction for his team rather than being limbo. He didn't really see much promise at running back with the way Ramondre's played, and then also Miles Sanders being a huge letdown this year. I know he's had a few surprises like Nico Collins and stuff, but I still think he saw too many holes to um, really get out of, I guess, this season. And, with Tyreek being an aging asset, obviously he's a top three fantasy option this year. But I know Tyreek's kind of walked back the comments, but I know that like he's even said at one point that he's got like 2 seasons left and then he's bouncing, so like just kind of knowing like his timeline being towards the back end of his career, I think he just sort of wanted to kind
29,
of pick a or okay, yeah, but still
29.
wanted to pick a stance, kind of pick an angle or strategy. I think he believes Mitri's first is still going to be a top 3 or 4 pick, in 2025. And I think he also did it to make himself worse so that his own pick can be that he still owns can be top 3 this year, top 3 or 4, to kind of try to draft like a top tier running back through the draft because he's having trouble really acquiring one through trades, so he's kind of just wanting to sort of rebuild through the draft.
How do you feel about the inclusion of Jamison Williams in this going to Lucas? He kind of gets a lottery ticket there with Jamison, who really maybe played one game for Jeremy. I don't even know if he played. Like he caught, I think he's only caught like one pass in his NFL career. So he
Oh
really
no, he's caught 3 now. He caught 2 on Sunday. He
played
caught 2.
Sunday. Excuse me. So he has.
Yeah, but I mean, he caught 2 passes for 2 yards, so it wasn't like it wasn't anything spectacular. But
Not,
he did get a few catches. But yeah, I mean, I was about as big of a Jameson Williams guy literally just a couple months ago than really probably anybody in the entire league. Um, I literally even had an offer out, on the trip, the Cocoa Beach trip, where offering the 105 for Jameson. Like I still really believed in the guy and saw his tape, saw his college pedigree, things like that. I was like, this guy, is gonna be a game breaking speedster in the NFL. Really believed in him, and I don't know. I feel like it's just been nothing but bad news with him for 2 seasons. He really thought this year would be the year it rights the ship, and he gets through the suspension, but then it's just nothing but good news from there. But even the way the coaching staff talks about him, just kind of their hesitancy to really like rain too many praises on the guy just kind of worries me. He had a pretty terrible drop. I actually am coworkers with a diehard Lions fan who watches every game and stuff, and he said in their game on Sunday he had like an alligator arms drop where it was like literally the perfect ball, and he just was scared to get hit and just flinched and just didn't catch it. And so I know it's just early drop, but he had drop issues in training camp. So the more news I hear about him, the more I'm just like, this guy just might not be it. And when I was talking to Lucas about his thoughts on Jameson, he just wanted to at least get something on top of Tyreek so that it wasn't like too bad of an overpay. I don't think Lucas even likes Jameson. Like, I think it was kind of more just a thing. It was like if I'm giving up 4 assets, I'd like to at least get something else. But I don't think Lucas values him as a guy he'll ever play. I think he values him as just a complete boomer bust, throw in on his bench, just see what happens. So um, I don't think there's a whole lot to the Jameson addition. I've definitely soured a decent amount on him. I know that there's still a path to being good, but there is also major bust potential there. So the
yeah.
good thing with Lucas' situation is with now getting Tyreek Hill and having the receiving core he still has, he can afford for Jameson Williams to bust, whereas other players in the league might not be able to afford that. So if it doesn't work out there, it's not the end of the world.
So it kind of looked like to me too a guy in Lucas who has slipped to 1-4 and knows that he can't have too many more losses the rest of the way if he wants to, be in that playoff picture. We all think he has a great team and a great roster, but the way the ball's bounced so far, that's where he finds himself. So this definitely seems like a move to preserve his ability to not just sneak into the playoffs, but still kind of have a really good year and turn it around. Tyreek Hill is a pretty amazing player, so he's getting a great guy to slot in there. Drake London still has a lot of upside, and he's progressed a little bit. Obviously, kind of handicapped in that Atlanta system, but a promising, only a second-year player nonetheless. So I think that that's a nice piece Jeremy gets back, and Roshan Johnson certainly has a lot of potential too. So the picks on top of it, I think it makes sense for both sides. It's interesting that it's between 2, 1, and 4 teams, but I think that's just the luxury Lucas has with the other construction of his roster that he can add a win now piece, um, such as Tyreek Hill, and pay a lot for him and still maintain some really good depth. So it made sense for both sides. Had to be tough to pull the trigger on Tyreek, but definitely a new chapter here for the Feather Friends.
Yeah. I think yeah, it's kind of Jeremy's been such a steady manager in terms of always being consistently pretty good, maybe not like elite, but at least like one of the better teams. So, and I think every move he's made has been to elevate him, make him better in the moment and stuff. And so this is the first move where he's kind of like, I don't see it with this roster currently. Let's kind of blow it up a little bit. And I'm glad he's picking an angle, and I think he got a good return on investment here, or a good a good return. But it's just it's definitely a move that's going to make him a lot worse because Drake London's not really in a position to be a quality starter, on like a high end team currently. I think you can start him in like a flex spot or something, but it's not like the most exciting play because he's very liable to go for 2 points with Desmond Ritter. So I think London just needs a quarterback. I mean, he's running good routes, he's getting targets, he's getting open. Desmond Ritter just sucks. So, until they can.
Back encouraging weeks, I think. 9 targets last week, and he's gotten in the end zone twice this year. So he's
Yeah,
not.
no, he's got good target volume. Yeah, and he's gotten in double digits 3 of his 5 weeks. So I mean, it's not like he's useless. It's just you just can't be confident in what you're getting every week right now because of Atlanta's, passing attack. So until that can kind of get more consistent, I don't know if London's ever going to reach that top 12 type guy until they can kind of get a quarterback that can feed him. But I still think he's a quality like top 24, top 25 receiver for the next 5 years, which is a very quality piece. So, and yeah, getting that early first. I mean, I know he's going to have to wait a year to cash in on it since it's 2025, but I mean, early first or early first, or I don't know, it could be a mid first, but I'm just saying,
Mhm. Yeah, it's
we
hard to.
don't know where the pick's going to be, but all inclinations lead to thinking it's going to be semi early. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
hard to
And I
know.
know that's what he's betting on. So,
I just want to say one quick word, I guess, about the trade Caleb and I made last week.
yeah, yeah, let's talk about that. That's a big trade.
A worthy one. So yeah, I ended up sending him Justin Fields and Traylon Burks in my first to get Tua, Kenny Gainwell, and your first, Matt, that he had. And this was kind of a move I made just because I was a little concerned about Chicago, and this was the day of their Thursday night game when he played really well. More so, just concerned with them, owning two top picks, probably projected top picks there in the Panthers and their own in the draft, and them being bad enough to think that Fields isn't the guy and just going away from him completely. And Fields has kind of been a little feast or famine this year, and they're not really running him as much. And it had been a little bit of a famine. So I mean, I really wanted to go with somebody who could steady the ship, I thought, in Tua and be a bit more of a consistent performer on the team. And in order to kind of move this, I knew that Caleb was interested in Fields. He'd been hitting me up about him for, ever since the offseason. So I went back to him and was seeing if it was still there. And yeah, in order to make it work, I had to finagle, or we had to finagle a little bit, and ended up putting in Traylon Burks, who really is kind of one of those things. Like it really is a testament to that idea of when something hurts you over and over, and you just keep looking at it and feeling pain. Sometimes it's best just to remove it entirely from your house.
Yeah.
That was Traylon Burks, just because I picked him over Garrett Wilson and Olave, and it was just it wasn't working, and I didn't really see much upside there for it to turn around. Certainly not this year, and then just moving my first. I didn't love doing that because it takes away some of my ability to control my own destiny there, but at least I was able to flip picks, so I might be dropping down in the first round, but I'm not all the way out of it. It was worth the gamble for me to try and right the ship. And we were able to win another one this week, so 2-3 now. I didn't feel. I mean, watching Fields have a really good game. In a vacuum, obviously, you're like, dang, I wish he was still on my team, but I still hold with that logic of the greater picture, and we'll see what happens. So anyhow, that was the move we made there. Caleb is a fun person to negotiate with. He is very decisive and knows what he wants and how he values things. And whenever he sends you an offer or sends you something he's thinking it, and he's willing and ready to do it. And I definitely
Yeah.
admire and appreciate that about him as a trade partner. So it was
Yeah.
a pleasant negotiation.
Yeah, definitely credit him with that with the Ken Walker deal as well. Whenever that one happened, is We negotiated for a while, and as soon as he got to something he liked, he sent it over immediately. It wasn't like this whole "let me think on it for 3 days" type deal. It was like, and I'm guilty of doing it myself sometimes. Obviously with the whole Charbonnet Henry deal, I was like that with you, so I know I'm capable of it. But he knows what he wants to do, so makes quick decisions. So no, I honestly liked it for both sides. It made a lot of sense. Fields is going to win you some weeks, but he's also going to lose you a bunch. It's like you kind of traded a guy that's either going for 30 or he's going for 5, and you kind of got a guy that's consistently going to get at least 15 with the upside of getting 26. It's like there's a floor with Tua where even on his bad weeks, he's still going to get 15, 16 points. So
That's
he's not going to lose. He's not going to be the reason you lose very many weeks.
yeah,
Which is,
and
I
I mean,
think it's,
I think he's just like definitely going to be a starter beyond this year. Whereas I definitely had a concern about that with Fields.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It's like there's so many times with trading, like obviously like me with Dobbins right now. And there's a million times where it's like someone gets injured for a huge bad injury, or like yeah, someone just might lose their starting role, and you're just sitting on your hands. And if you don't sell before that happens, then like you get nothing. So you definitely didn't want that to happen where Fields loses his job and then you're just like trying to get a third for him or something, just trying to get scraps when
Or I'm left without a quarterback on the roster. So I mean, like it was just an old trying to be safe and protect my team longevity move. So
yeah.
yep. And then obviously your little 3-team trade there, if you want to say a piece on that.
I'm not gonna spend too much time on it. We got better things to talk about in the Huddle House. Basically to sum it up, James was hitting me up tonight, just trying to get Stafford from me. Um, I didn't really value Stafford a ton, so I mean I was willing to talk, but I think yeah, I think my only hesitation is I was looking at the waiver wire for backup quarterbacks that I could like pick up if I traded Stafford, and like there was literally not a single starter. So I was like, well, if something happens to Mahomes, like I don't want to have to overpay just to get another quarterback on the roster to like play. Because people will know I'm desperate if I have no starting quarterback on my team. So I was kind of like, I'm sorry, I don't know if I can really trade him for like a receiver or something, whenever I won't have another quarterback. And so then James hits me up like, 30 minutes later and is like, would you accept a deal if I can get a quarterback on your roster that starts? And I was like, and then like 2 minutes after he sends that text, he sends this offer in Sleeper. So I guess he'd already talked about it with Chris or something. I don't know. But and so it gets me Gino, and Chark, who we'd kind of discussed trading just straight up for Stafford. And I just kind of have to throw in 5 fab, and I was just sort of to me, it was like a pretty safe move because I kind of value Geno and Stafford about the same. I mean, maybe a slight edge to Stafford, but I mean, I could flip a coin on who I prefer. It's pretty much even. So to be honest, I'm just getting Chark, just another bench receiver that I don't really ever want to have to play, but is at least playable as a desperation flex, if ever needed, for 5 fab, which I don't really care about my fab at all, as my $50 left really shows. So to me, it was a very safe move. And James gets a little bit of more insurance at quarterback since he doesn't know what's happening with Kirk's numbers, I think, without JJ and stuff. So I completely get it for him. And then for Chris, I mean, with the emergence of CJ Stroud, and Russell Wilson having a little bit of a bounce back year, he just doesn't really need Geno. So for him, I guess it's just get a little more draft capital on the board. So yeah, I mean, pretty, unsexy trade. I'm not gonna sit around and act like we made some sort of blockbuster happen, but I think it's a pretty solid deal for all ends, and made a lot of logistical sense. So
Well, there you go.
and
Um,
then I guess I'll also mention briefly, this is also not a huge deal, but the Roshan for Tajay swap with Chris and Lucas. Any thoughts on that, or do you just want to kind of breeze by it?
I mean, I think we can breeze by it. I think the only reason it was done is so that Jeremy could get Roshan in the Tyreek Hill trade. I think clearly he wanted Roshan over Spears, and so
Yeah.
just did that deal to make it happen for him.
Yeah. Yeah. Who do you prefer there between Roshan and Tajay?
It's tough to say. I think that Tajay has shown a little bit more explosiveness, but I think Roshan has a better opportunity to become a feature back. especially, I mean, immediately with Khalil Herbert being hurt and out for a little while. I mean, I think he could be the guy pretty soon. And then, so I would say Roshan there personally.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I almost value them like very similar. I see it for both sides. It's almost like a coin flip. Obviously, Roshan's going to have a quicker opportunity to win the job, but I know that they do still have obviously still have Khalil Herbert, who doesn't have a super serious injury and should eventually come back, and Deonta Foreman, who I do think will get some of these carries once, and I don't think it's going to be like a complete bell cow these next few weeks. So, obviously Roshan can prove it and maybe take to where he's getting most of the workload, but I still kind of see him as a committee back. Whereas, I feel like if anything were to happen to Henry, it's like there is no Deonta Foreman or anything on Tennessee. Like I really think Tajay gets 100%. So I think that I think I might slightly lean Tajay, but it's pretty close. Just because I just see Henry aging, and obviously he still looks good, but like, I feel like if anything were to happen to him, like, Tajay's creeping more and more into the workload, and I think he would kind of assume full duties. So, and with Fields is rushing as well, I just feel like I just don't know if there's enough carries to distribute amongst a committee, in Chicago, whereas Tennessee, gives all of them to one person basically. So,
that's
um, I think I lean Tajay, but it's pretty close.
what about this is something we didn't talk about that also was a trade. Jake's trade for Cam Akers, where he gave up Gerald
Oh yeah,
Gerald Everett in 2 seconds, Marcus's 2024 and your 2026, and Gerald Everett to get Cam Akers and Carter's 2025 third.
yeah. So I feel like the theme of the night in terms of these trade, recaps has just been like letting go of people that have hurt you over and over again. Obviously you drafted Traylon super high, top 5 pick. That obviously had to hurt. Chris lets go of Kyle Pitts a few weeks ago, who he drafted number 2 overall, who had just been hurting him over and over again. And I feel like that's been Carter's story with paying 2 firsts and Pittman for Akers, which I still give him crap about to this day. I think it's Carter finally just saying like, you've hurt me too many times.
Yeah.
I gotta get rid of you, man. Rather than just let you sit and waste my roster spot and just remind me of my decisions.
Oh, sure.
As far as getting value back, I think he got dang good value to be honest, because um, as an Alexander Madison owner, I kind of watched the Minnesota backfield a lot these last few weeks, and I mean, I don't think either guy is necessarily blowing up the stat lines, or really blowing up the box score. But if you do look at usage, Madison's still getting most of it. I mean, Akers is still getting a few carries, but not enough to be viable. I mean, Madison's barely viable himself. I mean, but he's a little bit more viable because they've been using him on the goal line, not Akers, and they've been giving him 10 or 11 carries and Akers like 4. So I'm not saying that can't flip. I know it has in leagues before, with teams, but as far as what we know now, it still seems like Madison is getting most of it. So I just don't really know what upside he offers Jake to give up 2 seconds and a playable tight end. Like
Yeah.
it just seems like a little bit of an overpay.
Yeah. It could be seen as that. I mean, it kind of is a little similar to his 2 seconds for Philip Lindsay, which that didn't exactly work out. Like 2 seconds for another kind of middling running back who is, getting passed around here. See how it works out this time. I mean, he definitely hit one there with Kyron Williams, getting lucky there that he's taken that job. So he got the guy who got traded for, that to allow Kyron to have that position, which is interesting. But
Yeah.
speaking of overpays, this is not our league, but I just wanted to share this because I just wanted to see your reaction. So a buddy of mine at work is playing in a dynasty league this year. It's his first one, and
Hmm.
it's all these guys' first ones. And so whoever it was that drafted Christian McCaffrey, traded him. Listen to what this guy gave up to get Christian McCaffrey. So he sent him Jerome Ford and Kendre Miller. But he also sent on top of that his first, second, and third round picks for 2024, 2025, and 2026. He sent him every future pick he could. Kendrick Miller and Jerome Ford for McCaffrey. It's like this guy, gosh, man, we didn't even make mistakes like that our first year. Like we didn't know what we were doing, but we didn't do anything like that.
That's crazy, man.
I said, "Holy smokes!" Said that guy's team's future is cooked.
Oh, it's so bad. I mean, he's all in on this year, man. I mean, it's
You better
British.
better win it all this year. I don't know. I just thought that was crazy. Could you imagine somebody in our league giving up every single one of their future picks for anybody? It doesn't even matter who it is. Like that's just a crazy thing to give up. Like he has no draft picks for the next 3 years. It's gonna be
Yeah.
and it's one guy that has every single one of them. It's crazy.
He's gonna have to cut every single one of like his seconds and thirds just because there's 9 players.
Oh, he's just gonna take that. He's gonna take those picks and trade and build a super team. Like,
Well, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
yeah. Anyhow, that was a side note. But what I mean, should we round this out by just talking about next week or talking about this week or what?
Yeah, just real brief recap of last week. We only got 10. Well, should we recap last week or just go over this week?
We can just go over this week. It'll be a
Okay, sounds good. We don't got to talk about my humiliating loss to Mitri that I put up of
oh, well,
91 points.
actually, maybe we should for just
Oh man, that freaking hurt. That hurt bad. I think also just opening sleeper every time and seeing the guy I'm losing to has that avatar. I
yeah,
think it just makes it hurt even worse.
no doubt, man. That's it's disgusting. Like it's all right. So next week, uh, let's start with you. You take on Jake. Does this one mean a little something to you?
Oh, I mean, to be honest, it's like I want to focus on the rivalry end of it, but to be honest, like I think I'm more just thinking of like just the necessity of a win. Like I can't, I can't go 3-3. I mean, whenever you're trying to make the playoffs, obviously the way you compartmentalize it in your head is you're like, I know there's some teams I'm going to face where there's a pretty decent chance I lose. Could win, but obviously I'm playing James, Lucas, like, Brandon, guys like that. There's a pretty decent chance I can lose. So you need to win the matchups that you're supposed to win, like in order to like make it in. And I didn't do that this past week with Mitri. So now I'm kind of in this position where I'm like, if I drop one to Mitri and Jake, and I got this stretch coming up of James and Lucas back to back the following weeks and stuff, like this could get kind of ugly. So like it's a must win for me. I know James or Jake's still not giving up on the season either and stuff, but I'm just saying like it's one I can't really afford to drop. So there's a lot of pressure going into it. If he's the one that kind of puts me in this terrible situation, it's going to hurt even worse. So I got to take care of business. We got to find a way to get back in the W column. I've got some good matchups. I feel good about it. But I know that my team's all very capable of laying out some clunkers as they've done multiple times this year. So we'll see. I mean, hopefully I can get my defense to at least give me 4 points this season. I mean, like, my gosh, dude. I feel like I'm getting negative like half my weeks.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that's just killing me. I'm so ready to just ditch defenses next year. Hopefully we can win that league vote because I am just sick of it, man.
Well, you got a lot of good matchups for you. I'm seeing a lot of green on your side with,
Oh,
Pat.
Mahomes and Pacheco against Denver, dude. I mean, that should be just absolute cooks.
Yeah, that should be a lot of points. And Jake does get back Mike Evans, and I think he was without Mike and DK last week because they were both on bye. So that's a nice little boost. But he may not have Javante. That still remains to be seen. That would be a blow for him. So you never know, man. I mean, it's a week to week league, and you say there's games you should win, but really, it's all so up in the air. Like it's all hard to say. But I will pick you to win this one. I think you got a lot better matchups than Jake.
I appreciate it. I feel pretty good, but I also don't want to get too confident because I was pretty dang confident going into this past week, and it just kicked me in the butt. So I'm trying to proceed with caution, but I will pick myself. I think I'll find a way to get it done. We got James versus Chris. I'm not going to go into it too much. I'm taking James. I'll just keep it simple.
Chris is awful shape with buys. He's got Aaron Jones and Najee on buy, so he's starting Tajay Spears and Justice Hill at running back.
Yeah, and he's having as of right now, he's got
Amir Abdullah.
Braxton Berrios in his starting lineup.
He's got Amir Abdullah in his flex.
Yeah, I'm taking James.
That's tough there. Yeah, I'm gonna take James in that matchup too. Banged up,
Um,
tough.
we got you and Marcus. This is gonna be maybe the matchup of the week to focus on. I think this is gonna be a real barn burner.
Well, he's without Justin Jefferson, which is definitely a big blow for him. That's some tough news. But
He
otherwise,
probably gets Eckler back.
yeah, gets Eckler back, a healthy, well rested Eckler.
But
It's
he's
gonna
got some bad matchups, man. Like Eckler, I mean, Eckler should go off against everybody, but he is playing Dallas, who, should be pretty fired up after getting embarrassed last week. And I think their run defense is still pretty great. And then Philly's run defense is also really, menacing for Brees Hall to go up against as well in a matchup that could be pretty pass heavy for New York just because they're getting behind so much. So he
yeah,
doesn't have very good running back matchups, but he does have Raheem Mostert back to getting full bell cow duties after Devon A. Chain's injury. So
yeah,
that could be pretty bad, especially against Carolina, whose run defense is pitiful. So I think that's probably the matchup to fear.
yeah. And I'm still worried that Jonathan Taylor getting eased back in. Like he only played 15% of the snaps. Like what? That's crazy to me. But I don't know what's going to happen there. So and T Higgins still may not play, which would definitely be a blow. So
But hey, though, congrats on the extension, by the way, though, for Jonathan Taylor. That was good news.
good news. Yeah, that's definitely good news. But I think I'm going to go Marcus here too. I think that he's just got the better players, which would be a tough loss. But yeah, I'm gonna pick him in that one.
I feel like your whole strategy, Tyus, is just never pick yourself. I believe in the Jimmies more than you do, man. I know you got the logo on all your merch, but I'm taking you, man. I think Kelsey's gonna absolutely obliterate Denver. I think DJ Moore is gonna be in a pretty high scoring game of Minnesota, and I think he'll do pretty well. And Tua against Carolina is also just absolute cooking them, I think. So it's gonna be real close, but I mean, I'm not saying Marcus is not in a position to win, but I'm taking you, man. I think you're going to find a way to win. But
Well,
Jonathan Taylor is, I think, the X factor. If he gets at least at least 8 or 9 points for you, I think you win. But if he lays out a 3 or 4 point outing, it could be kind of tough.
we got to
So
rapid fire these next ones. I got
yeah.
Lucas and Austin here.
Um. Well, with Lucas's move now, I think that puts him over the top a little. Josh Jacobs is starting to wake up. I think Lucas will win.
Gosh, I love Austin's lineup so much.
Yeah, I mean, I do too, but he hasn't been getting much out of Damian Pierce. Now Montgomery's been amazing, but
Yeah, and Puka Nakua too. Like that's oh man, great.
oh yeah, yeah.
But
Austin's lineup is so much better than his record shows.
I think Herbert's going to struggle a little bit Monday night with Dallas's defense, like you mentioned, an angry Dallas. So and Amon-Ra, he's hurt, a little banged up. Well, excuse me, might be worked back in a little bit slower. Not sure, but I think I'm going to go with Lucas too. With the new Tyreek move, it's a must win. I think he's going to get it this week.
Yeah. We got Carter and Mitri. I might be making my pick purely out of vengeance for what Mitri did to me on Sunday, um, but I'm gonna take Carter. I mean, I think Pollard against the Chargers run defense is pretty favorable. Um, you know, uh, Amari Cooper and Deshaun coming off the bye. I know it's San Fran, but I think they'll do okay in a pass heavy game where they have to pass a lot. I mean, I don't know if they'll be great, but I think they'll be sufficient. And if Zach Moss does keep the workload for one more week, then he's a great start too. So I'm
Yeah,
gonna take Carter.
yeah, I'm with you there. Makes sense.
Yeah. Could get a big week for Addison though on Mitri's end, just with the whole JJ news. I think he's kind of becoming the target hog. So, Jordan and Caleb,
Jordan in a great.
gosh, man, these projected scores are awful.
Jordan's in
But
a great
Jordan's,
spot to go 6-0 though.
yeah, but Jordan's gonna win because Caleb doesn't want to win. So, whenever Caleb doesn't want to win, he finds a way to not do it. So,
I don't know. Beg to differ.
yeah.
Beat me.
That's true. I probably shouldn't have said that. My bad. I was a little tone deaf.
Okay.
Um, yeah, but I'm taking Jordan.
Yeah, I'm going to take Jordan here too. He's going to be 6-0. And
Yep.
Brandon and Jeremy with no Tyreek Hill in the lineup. What do you foresee here?
Um, well, I mean, I know Jeremy's going to start his best lineup, give it his best shot, but I still think that with the tear Jamar Chase is on, a pretty good amount of green matchups, also getting a lot of production from Kamara. I think Brandon will find a way to win.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go Brandon here too. Just think he's got the more explosiveness on his team. Obviously, Jeremy still has AJ Brown, who's a top player, but and KJ Osborne got a boost with the
Yeah,
so that should be noted. So, but that's what I see right now, I think.
yeah, for sure. Well, man, it was a fun episode. We only got about 30 seconds left, so we kind of breezed through those last few. So everyone's kind of got their predictions out there. We'll see who's right, but definitely some important matchups like there is every week. So we'll
Yeah,
see how it goes.
do it.
Rooting for you, man.
Rooting for you too, bro. We'll do it again next week. Maybe get a guest on here.
Yeah, we will. But we'll get this out there for you guys and keep trading. It's fun for us.
That's good. Peace.
All right, see ya.